Not so hard. Yeah. So, hi guys. We're doing palliative care today, or understanding palliative care. This can be quite a sensitive unit, and it can be quite challenging. I Sarah called me last week, and she said, "Oh, you seemed a bit off. What's wrong?" And yeah, I couldn't really speak about it last week. I was going to just cry. My mum passed away last Sunday. So it's been a really hard one, and today's going to be really challenging for me. And I took some days off last week at the beginning of the week, but just being the subject it is, it's hard. No, that's fine. But I also want to say that before I start, that if any one of you are going through a hard time or the subject is too sensitive and you feel like you want to get up and go out, please don't even have to say anything. You know, go for a little walk and come back, get fresh air. Can I try to do it? Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. So, so we have, all public experiences, part of life, I suppose. So, it's just been particularly hard because my mum's was in Namibia, and yeah, and I think not being there for my sister, that is the hard part. Anyway, so no, in Namibia, in Africa. My in-laws is in the UK. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, you're from Africa. I'm from Africa. My husband's from the UK. From Britain. Yeah. No, we lived in the UK as well. So this unit is on applying principles and the aims of palliative approach, chapter 1 anyways, while we're supporting individuals. So in my years in aged care, I have been involved in palliative care. I actually really love being involved in palliative care. I think it's a real privilege being there with somebody in the last days, being there for the family. I think it's a real privilege. And there's a lot of the staff that I've worked with that has been years in the care industry that's never had to lay a body out, or never had to get involved in palliative care. It's a team job. We're not by ourselves. So if it's hard for you, you don't have to do it. But it's good if you do allow yourself to just. It's that what we were talking through. I don't know if we did it. Yeah, we did it with the. No, we both didn't do it. With dementia care, well, the opposite unit for the guys in disability, they had a arousal cycle, and then there's things that sets behaviors with people that are, disabled people, and where they get set off, and then they get to a place where it, it's like all explodes, and then it's, so whatever goes up has to come down. So if you ever go through experiences where things are hard, or you have confrontation, or you have a real challenging situation to deal with, it's good to allow yourself to go through it, get through the experience. And I think I lost my dad 4 years ago, I lost my brother last year in December, and I lost my mum now. So it comes in waves. So sort of, you good, and then it comes in waves, and sometimes unexpected, you don't realize it. So, but it gives us also an understanding and resilience in the industry, and dealing with our residents and dealing with our clients, because you all chose to work in aged care. You all chose to work with elderly people, and they are in the last part of their lives. So with palliative care, it's an approach that improves the quality of the life of a patient and their family facing a life-threatening illness. It offers relief from suffering from pain and provides physical, psychological, and spiritual comfort. Now, palliative care in itself, it's not just caring for somebody in the final days. It could be a process and it could run over 2 or 3 or 4 years. If you think of somebody which has also been a devastated blow on top of all of the things I've been going through the last 2 weeks, is my very best friend that was born in the same town as me, 5 days apart from me. I've only met her here in Australia. Was diagnosed with ovarian cancer on Friday last week. So with ovarian cancer, it is a killer, and people can live for about 5 years. So she'll be the next 5 years, maybe, they manage to stop it. I don't know, but it's normally quite severe. And so if you're diagnosed with a terminal illness, you can be living for 5 years, up to 5 years, sometimes even longer. But yes, you'll be on palliative care. So then the focus would be on keeping that person comfortable and helping them to live a life as full as possible for that time period. And then you have the final days care, which is like where the focus is absolutely on this is now the last days. So palliative care is not just that last few days, it can be a long time. So I have a little video just as an introduction.
It was the night of October 30th, and there was a knock on the door. Adam had been in serious car accident. I thought we were being told that your son's going to die. We learned that he was going to be flown to Harvard.
And the doctor who was the head that day, he looked at us and he said, "This is very bad."
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, still
When people have had a serious illness, especially if it's sudden or unexpected, it's as if somebody says, "You're going on a journey and you don't know where you're going, but it's going to be treacherous. And along the way, one of your loved ones might die." We were faced with the situation of whether or not to put the trach in and to have the feed put in. And for us, it was an agonizing decision to know whether we were going to prolong his life in that state. And is that what Adam wanted?
Patients and families are faced with more choices than they ever had before, and more decisions than they ever had before. And when you have a serious illness, all those choices and decisions feel like life or death decisions. And so people need guidance in figuring out how to work their way through that. We have really focused on developing marvelous treatments and technologies to sustain life, to prolong life, and that's wonderful. But our treatments and technologies have gotten so advanced that sometimes we wind up using those technologies in situations where that's really not what's in the patient's best interest or what patients really want. If they really understand all the things that are going on. Palliative care is a kind of specialty care that helps optimize the quality of life for patients with a serious illness and their families.
I had heard the word before, but I had always associated it with end-of-life decisions, which really made me anxious.
The most common misconception about palliative care is that it's the same as end-of-life care. And when we equate palliative care with end-of-life care, that misses enormous opportunities to improve care for patients with serious illness, either that we don't recognize who are dying or that may not be dying.
Over the next week or two, Adam still remained very sick. He really wasn't making any significant improvements. And Mark and Alice really started to question their decision to move forward. I leaned down and I whispered to Adam that if it was just too hard to come back,
So when the babies were really looking at the possible end of their son's life and having to say goodbye to Adam, what we did and what we seek to do is draw as close to them in that experience as possible. Because there's a lot of evidence that that sort of spiritual heartache and distress, if it's held in community, there can be healing there. But if someone stays in that place alone, it tends to lead to worse outcomes, worse health outcomes, and more pain and distress for that person. Fortunately for the babies, things began to look up.
We got a phone call that the neurologist was up there waiting for us and to get up there as fast as we could.
Or came in and goes, hey, I looked at this MRI. I don't see anything to suggest that he can have a reasonable recovery.
Steve always said his patients were his best. So we had one story that we would like to tell. I don't know how many years ago it was, because the hospital had years ago. Rachel had tried to jump out. She was in so much pain. She just decided she couldn't stay there anymore. And he sat down and said to her, you know, I haven't been this, but I'm here now.
Dr. Stuart Farber really founded the Palliative Care Service at UW Medical Center in 2005 and built that program to be a world-class palliative care service. That program that he built has been a flagship for our palliative care services at UW Medicine. Palliative care includes physicians, nurses, social workers, spiritual care providers, and others, a team of people who provide care for patients with serious illness and for their families as well. So our center is very focused on building our clinical programs to ensure that every patient with serious illness has access to palliative care. We're very interested in improving education in palliative care for clinicians. That includes training specialists in palliative care, but also making sure that all doctors and nurses, social workers have primary palliative care skill.
At the Cambia Health Foundation, we believe that palliative care is about life. It's about enhancing the quality of life and enjoying life, even when you're dealing with serious illness. It's the type of person-focused care that we'd like to become the norm for the entire healthcare system.
Because of contributions from individuals and organizations like the Cambia Health Foundation, we're really able to secure the future of the center.
The $10 million investment we made in UW Medicine to create the Cambia Palliative Care Center of Excellence is the largest grant in the Cambia Health Foundation's history.
You know, I used to spend my time convincing people palliative care is important. I don't have to do that anymore. Now we have to figure out, okay, how do we really deliver this kind of care to everybody who wants it.
So now we're around week 7.
And I can remember that day, Mark sent me an email that said, you won't believe it.
It was like someone found the switch on that and flipped into on. I told Alice that we had something to show her. So she's there, and I turned my computer around to Adam, and he starts blowing kisses.
Things were that. So from him starting to speak, and from there, it was just incredible, stepwise and significant improvements. We've actually been able to go home.
But there came hours to repeat that I can sleep in my own bed and have my dog sleep with me.
You know, it's a new relationship that you have with somebody after an accident like that. And I think it's really been an incredible thing to see this new relationship with his parents, with his family, with his community.
I didn't push Adam pretty hard.
We have seen such strength and such resolve to get better. It's been amazing that he had that all the time we didn't know.
Someday I would like to work at the animal shelter.
Who knows what he can accomplish?
I am hoping that patients with a serious illness could keep living more and keep living longer with all the medical treatment instead of having to live for the medical treatment. And I feel like that would really transform the way we treat serious illness.
So that's a nice little introduction. So palliative care can be turned around. remember a few times in aged care already, we've had some residents that they put on palliative care. Now we put a little butterfly on the door when somebody goes into palliative care, and we all know what it means. So we have an extra bit of, forms that we fill out, and then we have like routines that we do with people with palliative care. And this little darling, she was actually near 100, and I thought that was it. She's on end of life care now, and we put the little butterfly on, and guess what? 3 years later, she was still alive. So sometimes somebody can live on palliative care for a very long time, and the aim is to give them quality of life for that time that they will still be living like that. And then, of course, they can get better. It doesn't mean that it's the end. So I think it's been said, when an illness cannot be cured, the focus on care, helping patients have the best quality of life. So we're having this goal to prevent and release suffering. That is our main goal as carers, and to improve their quality of life. And then there's a difference between palliative care and end-of-life services. Chapter 1.1, recognizing the holistic needs of a person extending over time, not just end of life. So we all know holistic needs. So that is all the physical needs we need, from our spiritual needs, our emotional needs, obviously our care needs. So offering clients relief from pain and other symptoms will be a need. Show respect for their values and choices. Support the family in their decision making for the client and their family. Preserve the client's quality of life and dignity. And provide emotional and spiritual support for the client and for the family. And assist them with difficult decisions when necessary. So our roles can sometimes be a little bit limited. And whilst I was doing the preparation for this book, I actually got really frustrated with it, because this book isn't written for us. This whole book, there's so many things in there that actually got absolutely nothing to do with us or our scope of practice. And the frustration in that is when you get out in the community or you go work in a facility that you think, well, this should be done, and then it's not. And you've been taught that there's these options, and then you can't implement it because you don't have the right to do that. As it is with pain management, there's this huge stigma around pain management, and I don't know why. And specifically in Australia, I found that the doctors are so reluctant in giving people proper pain management. Okay, we do have a lot of alcohol drug abuse issues. It's not unique to Australia, really, but why they have to penalize somebody that is an end of life or palliative care for the sins of the nation that one doesn't make sense to me. And then there's this other side of the coin where doctors worry that they will cause that person's life to be shorter if they give them pain management, proper pain management. Like if they put them on morphine or something like that, if they, in a lot of pain. So,
bottom line is they probably people who take, get love,
Yes, so
but even the over 1980 in sleep program, give them that comfortable, relaxing feeling when they're in that condition.
yeah, I think it's practice. Zoe was just sharing. I just also for the recording that Zoe's sharing about a person that's had cancer, and then and she didn't get proper pain management, so she was off to using marijuana. I know in the States, I think it is already sort of quite common. It's quite common that they use, marijuana for treatment of cancer. Yes, it is. So.
It's illegal now in New South Wales. The only person who
Yeah. So there's some areas of Australia, yeah, that it's already legalized. I mean, there's a lot of I suppose a lot of research and a lot of opinions about it. Yeah, definitely. But for us to come into somebody's home or coming, into a facility, the frustration is there. I know that is one of my biggest frustrations I've experienced in my time in homes. There was a bit of a event about 3 years ago. I think it happened in Cairns, or might have been in anyway somewhere north. Might have been in what's the next big town up from here? No, north, going north. Townsville. I'm not sure, I think it might have been Townsville, where there was a doctor that administered morphine to elderly residents on palliative care, and then they got sued because they were told that they made their life shorter. There's this common misconception or misconception that morphine shortens your life or can kill you. It's not true. I've had residents that have been on palliative care or end of life care, and the family kept saying to us, give them more, wanting to let them go faster because they were in so much agony, or they needed to go somewhere else, so they wanted mom to go, So they were all around mum all the time, and they kept pressuring us to increase the dosages, kept pressuring the doctors to increase the dosages. And they had the thought that the morphine can kill. It's not a euthanasia drug. Morphine is not a euthanasia drug. It does kill brain cells, but it just so does alcohol. It's not it's a long-term thing, a long-term side effect. It's not an instant side effect that, and just because it kills brain cells doesn't mean it will kill you. You can then still carry on living in a vegetative state for a very long time. So there is the misconceptions about that. So, which is really frustrating. I went to a palliative care workshop, or what they called it was, it's talked about dying at the base hospital, I don't know, about 4 years ago. And it was all the doctors, and there was a CN, a clinical nurse there from the base, and she was talking to the doctors about this attitude they have towards not giving people on palliative care and end-of-life care proper pain management. In the UK, it's a big thing. Pain management is one of the #1 priorities. But unfortunately, and I spoke to the CN yesterday from right at home, unfortunately, in Australia, there's a lot of things that there's just no answer for. You sit here and you receive the answers, and you know what the answers are. But when you get out in the community, you get out in facilities, you're going to walk yourself against a wall. You're going to feel like you walk against a brick wall, because that is our #1 priority. Now, a little bit later through the slide, I will give you some options on how for you to be able to assist somebody in managing their pain to a certain extent. So, just talking about what palliative care is not, it's not end of all active treatment. It's not confirmed to the last hours or the last days. It's not necessarily withdrawn from food and fluids. It's not a default position when everything else fails. It's not hasting death by using drugs, and it's not artificially prolonging life. So, chapter 1.2, support the person, the carers, and the family to express their needs and preferences and report the information to the supervisor. So let's talk about end of life. Advanced care directives. Now there's another chapter a bit further on in the unit where we will talk about it again. But an advanced care directive is an instruction that the person will make to, in the event that they might lose the capacity to make decisions, basically. So, especially about their medical treatment in a, when they get to that place where they can't make decisions anymore. I reckon we all should have advanced care directives drawn up. You can actually get a form just online if you Google it and just, fill it out, keep it somewhere safe, or, let your family know where it is. Because it's good if you talk about these things whilst you are, we can all have an accident. We can all be in a place where we go into coma. We can all, get cancer and get sick, and then you don't think about these things. So while we're talking about it, it's good to consider. I've been meaning to for a long time. I haven't either yet, because I'm also because I'm pro-life for one, but as well as I'm also against getting force-fed or getting kept alive artificially. I don't want to do that either. So I would like to have that in my advanced care directive so people know how to deal with it. And then that makes that decision for your family easier. So they don't have to make that decision. Do we flip the switch? Do we put the machines off and, or keep them alive? This advanced care directive can be used by the person to communicate specific instructions about the type of treatment that you'd like to, and request or refuse treatment, of course. So power of attorney or enduring power of attorney or enduring guardianship, those are all terminologies that are used for people that will be making those decisions on your behalf. So you appoint somebody, and quite often it's good to appoint a good friend instead of doing that to your partner or your son or your daughter, because for them to be in that position might be really difficult. Enduring power of attorney, there is also slight differences between somebody being your EPO, which is your enduring power of attorney, and somebody that be your end of life power of attorney. There's a slight difference between that. So your family could still make decisions in regards to if you have to go into care, where do you go? If you need something, they're the ones that's got access to your finances and, they're able to go into your bank account and look after you, opposed to making that final decision. So there's a slight difference in that. Haven't actually really gone into it. I know that there's a different terminology for that also. So it's never too late to have this advanced, it's like a care plan, advanced care plan put in place, as you never know when this, you might face an accident or serious health condition. Talk about your family, about your healthcare wishes, and document this in your advanced care plan. So supporting the family, informed of changes and conditions. So when you work in a facility, you work with a client that are now, perhaps might be an end of life stage. It might also be, say, like, they've been put on palliative care, but it's not immediate. That's not last days. Family and a lot of people actually don't really understand what's going to happen, what's happening next, what does all of this mean. So when you have the understanding for it, it's good to communicate with people, and I always do that, even though some companies say, "Oh, don't talk to the family." I explain to them the practical side of palliative care. And I explain to them what I know about it. And I do say to them, look, I'm not the RN, I'm not the EN. Your mum can live another 3 years. Your mum can still be here, 4 Christmases from now. Just because they put her on palliative care does not mean that's end of life. They're just saying she's got a cancer, and they're not going to operate on her. They're not going to do any invasive treatment because she's 98. And, we have a client. She is 98. She was born in 1923. So 97. She's one of our oldest residents in Shepherd, and she has a pacemaker. She had a pacemaker. Last year, beginning of last year, the cardiologist phoned us and said to us, she's in the pacemaker has a battery, and they have to replace the battery every so often. I don't know, like 10 years or something. And with the old pacemakers, it's actually quite an invasive operation to do that. We've had another client, I've told you about her. She was a nurse, the only one of my clients that I've gone to her funeral. She's just lovely. The same with her. She actually had a pacemaker, and she was quite young still. She was in her late 60s. Her husband drove with her down to Brisbane to have this pacemaker's battery replaced, and she died 5 days after the replacement of the battery. She just did not survive the operation. Various things. She had struggles with her breathing. She was overweight and was a bit of, there's other health issues there. And she wasn't that old. So with this 97-year-old, when they phoned and they said, look, shall we replace the battery? Does she want to come in and have a battery? Husband said no. She's 97, How long can she still go? Maximum 5 years or something, Why prolong it? She's severely demented already. So she's already not got much quality of life anyways. So the husband decided not to go and replace the battery. So she went on to palliative. She's still alive. This is 2 years later nearly. This December it'll be 2 years. The battery was meant to die last year in March already. She needed to have it last year in March replaced. So all the pacemaker's battery does is actually just set the rhythm of the heart. So the heart can still carry on beating. And unfortunately, with pacemakers, sometimes when they have pacemakers in and the battery is charged up in there, the heart still beats even when everything else fails. So sometimes they can already, they can be already in a vegetative state and their brain has failed and a lot of other organs has failed, but the heart is still going. So sometimes you get a cardiologist coming to switch it off, because they've gone, their body has failed and they basically, it's like a life support reel. Yeah. So anyways, it's not something that can keep you alive per se or not. It's like you can miss really. It depends on, some people. Yeah. Who was it? You with the skip heartbeat? Did you go and check it out? Whose heart? Pulse. Who missed the pulse? Whose pulse did I take? Yours.
You haven't taken one.
We were in a simulation. I took somebody's pulse and they were skipping the beat. I can't remember now. Who else is here? Is it Kirsty? Anyone? I don't know. Anyway, one of my students, she's her pulse is irregular. My husband's got a regular pulse also, and they say, well, it's quite common really. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with your heart, but it could also mean that you have actually issues with your heart. So inform the client, inform your client, family members, because it can be quite a bit like, oh, I'm going to die tomorrow, not necessarily, explain to them the process, explain to them what they could expect and also not to give up. I saw another video, I don't think I can get it, but it was about staying positive and not giving up. even though, you know, you give them hope, maybe they might not have hope to keep living. They might still have hope into having other things done or expected occasions. Sometimes they wait for a family member to come from far. And they still have that hope that they'll still keep going until that family members have the opportunity to come and say goodbye. So there's always a place for speaking hope and giving people hope that if that is what they need, that is the comfort you have to give them. And ensure that the client and the client's family that you will do everything within your power to keep their loved one as comfortable as possible. You know, you're there to help them, you're there for them. And also be there for their emotional well-being, you know, that you're available. Um, Comfort them and know that they're not alone and able to vent their emotions as in a safe environment. You know, if they're able to speak to somebody, you understand because you're the one that's caring for mom and has been caring for mom for the last 2 years or something. And you go with them, you go through this process with them. And assure that the decisions they make on behalf of mom are appropriate. You know, there's no right or wrong. I've also watched a few videos yesterday of people that chose, to have euthanasia, that are in positions where they chose that. I'm not there to judge just because I don't choose that. It's not one of the ladies I was watching, she's 90 something. She got cancer. She looks like a skeleton already. And she said, I have no family. No family. But no one. If I had family, I might have made a different choice. But I choose for you now to euthanasia me because I don't want to carry on living with this pain and this suffering, you know. I saw a video of a lady in her 30s saying, you know, she's been diagnosed with severe cancer, it's gone everywhere, saying that there's some stage that during her palliative care process where she wants to do that. She wants her family to, take her to assisted dying. And her family, her husband had a hard time dealing with that. She's really young still. She's terminal. It's not my choice. It's not my opinion. It's not, it's not something I would like to do or actually support anyone in doing. But at the same time, I have actually supported people that stop eating. I have looked after people that where the doctor said no by mouth and they passed away after 5 days, which is what happened to my mum as well. So, that's sometimes the body's way of euthanasia itself, and the body shuts down, your swallowing shuts down, and then it's about 5 days. You can live up to 40 days if you do take fluids and no food, but if you stop both of them at the same time, then it's about 5 days. And communicating that with family members, so they can understand what to expect and what's happening. Okay, mum now stop swallowing, they're pulling the food in their mouth. You're there caring for them, keeping them comfortable. And then you can say to them, well, mum stopped eating now, so the expectation is about 5 days. So, they know what to expect. And then just finding meaning in the person's illness. At least you have the opportunity to be with mum. At least you have the opportunity to say goodbye. It's the one thing my sister said. At least she was there. She had the opportunity to say goodbye. We went to church on Sunday morning, and I knew she was with the home phone. My sister phoned me on Saturday, and she said the home phoned her and said she must come. And I know when they do that, for long enough. And then she said she went and mom's breathing, and she mimicked the breathing to me on the phone. And I knew, but she still had hope. My sister still had hope. And I didn't want to crush her hope, but I knew that it was the end. So she said, oh, I really hope she pulls through it again. And I said, yeah, really praying with you and everything. And then on Sunday morning, we went to church, and at church I felt, I felt there. I said, I wanted to send her a voicemail just to let her know that I love her, and to thank her for everything she's done for me and my children, to say goodbye. And I did that. It was too late. By the time my sister got the message, she'd already passed away. So it was too late. And I just didn't think about it earlier. But at the same time, had I maybe done it the day before, it might have also distressed my sister knowing that I'm saying goodbye. You know, so it's really finding meaning, and you know, and I find meaning. Maybe it comforted my sister a day more. You know, I didn't crush her hope. You know, so yeah, communicating with the person's carers and family and relations, and the quality of life, pain, comfort, and afford all this type of information to your supervisor. Communication is not always a spoken word. My first husband died, and I've had so many people in my life. I've lost 5 people very close to me in my life. My first husband died when I was 24. No, sorry, I was 21. I married my second husband when I was 24. I was 21. My grandma died 6 months later. I went through this, horrendous time in my life 30 years ago, and it was so hard. And I suppose that has made me resilient to now be able to carry on, because that was horrible. That was really horrible. I'm going through now, I'm just going through it. It's hard, but it's not all as hard as what it was then. I have my husband, I have my granddaughter, I've got a lot of joy in my life. I have you guys. It's amazing to have the opportunity to tell people about these things and prepare you for that. But I so vividly remember when my first husband died, I remember the people that came and hugged me and helped me. They still here. I can still remember their faces. There was one lady, she was blonde, she had a hair and she had a, you call this a French, in the Afrikaans it's a cape, and I'm like, oh. And she had her hair pulled back, and she always wore a scarf and a beautiful short, she was just amazing woman. And she came into I was resting one afternoon, she came and visit my in-laws and myself to bring her condolences. And I was resting, and she said, oh, no, let us stay in the room. And she came into the room, and I was lying on my bed, and she was a stranger. And she came in and she put her hand on my head. What an incredible experience that was. I can't explain. She said nothing. She just sat next to me and she just held her hand on my head. That touch, that closeness, and my head of all places, it's so magic. It was so magic. It was like God was with me. It was like that, it was just incredible. So that is, it's communication, but it's not through words. It's through letting the loved ones know, letting the people that you care for, their loved ones know that you are there with them. You might just go stand behind them and put your hand on their back. You might just show them that comfort. Words doesn't always cut it. Words is not always appropriate, actually. It's more appropriate to just have those gestures. So respect the family and the carers as an integral part of the care team, and they're part of us, they're part with us in it, and that they and offer them the support they need as well. So a big part of it when I've had residents passed away was keeping their family comfortable, making everything in my power to keep. I get the kindness from other people's rooms, and I push it in that room, and I give them bedding, and I make them tea, and I make them comfortable so they can be with mum until the last very end. I don't send them home when I go home at 9 o'clock at night. I tell all my people I work with, you better not send her home, she stays there with mum. Most homes have allowances for that, and they do let that happen. They do let that happen. We've had a bed, so I don't get an extra bed and put it into a room and let the daughter or the son stay there with mum until, you know, the last. So it's that support you have to offer as well. You're not just caring for the person that are in the life, you're also caring for their family. And I've got a little video here. So I just wanted to say something. Before I play the video, I did this palliative care course in the UK and it was brilliant, at a hospice in the place we were called. It was over a weekend and it was really fantastic. And this hospice, now hospice is a place where people go with terminal illness, most with cancer. And they have this bucket list. And they would have youngsters come in there and, or anyone that comes in as, you know, end of life care, and they would offer them this bucket list adventures. So they would do things like go quad biking, or go swimming in the sea, or go bungee jumping, or go parachuting, or, you know, whatever, you know, people want to do. The staff in that place was geared up to help people to do that. It was just so awesome. So they had this real attitude about that. Yes. Have I signed it? Is everybody signed? Yeah. So this is why I have this little video.
I only told my wife 2 weeks.
102.
In this case, Kenneth was 102 years old. He's frailer than a 21-year-old, so he got he had medical approval for his time. And we're giving a little extra attention to his training. Scott, I know it's inherently a little risky, so we have to just take precautions to make sure that it's fine as safe as possible.
USA, let's go.
This is all risky. Some motivation. Oh, me too. Beautiful. I actually did parachute jumping when I think I was about 19. I did a parachute. I had 2 tickets and I only jumped once. But it was, and now I've got fear heights. I can't even step up the step ladder. That first initial, and you know, we didn't have tangent. We had to jump up ourselves.
Oh.
It was ripcord, but it was so the parachute opened as you jumped out. Yeah, so it was ripcord, but we didn't have tangent. We were by ourselves, and I came in and. As I was coming in, so we were taught that it was our whole weekend course. We were taught how to roll when you land, and we were taught how to check for the wind, you know, the windsock, which way the wind comes in, and it was one of those square parachutes already. So if you pull it down, it sits down softly. It doesn't actually. It's not like with the round parachute where you just go down on the ground. But you have to watch the wind, and for that to be. And I came in and there was like a railway line and there's all these electrical poles and the windsock was the wrong way and I knew I had to go the wrong way. So I was with the wind instead of against the wind. So the wind slows you down and yeah, so I had to go, the wind was behind me, I was wrong. because of these stupid poles. And it tore my boots open, tore my jean, but I didn't get hurt. That was the last time. I walked with that second ticket in my pocket for another 4 or 5 years in my wallet. I never went. So you get 2 jumps with the course, but yeah. So it's all about a dignity of risk, you know, and duty of care. So you might yeah. So giving people that dignity of risk, they can still take risks, just as when we are caring for them in their homes and they want to do something where you think, oh, you can't do that, you're too old, you know, or don't walk, you're going to fall over. Still give them that dignity of risk. They can take risks if they want to take those risks. We are there. Don't let our duty of care overwhelm us because, oh, we have to protect them and wrap them up in a little bubble. And then, of course, their choices, their human right to make those choices. It's all about that, giving people that opportunity.
You know how you were saying about like or even the community or facility care? If someone's got no family, are they allowed to appoint their carer as like power of attorney? Are you allowed to accept that offer, or?
It would have to be real unique. I haven't really know. I think the law protects them from doing that. What happens is they will become what do they call it? Something of the state, ward of the state, where they will go, where you will go.
If they ask for a monetary,
maybe an enduring power, not enduring power, but I forget what the other one's called. I didn't look into it yesterday, but maybe to make choices. But anyways, if they have the award of the state, then those choices would have been documented. So if they have a no CPR, so they, you know, don't want to be resuscitated, then that would be on their file already. So their choices would already be documented. So we would have to follow whatever is documented. That would, you know, if they have drawn up an end of life care plan. So chapter 2.1 creates a supportive environment that encourages the person's family members and significant others and share information. Stuff about that. Use non-judgmental approach to ensure the person's lifestyle, social, spiritual, and cultural choices and needs are supported and documented in a care plan. So on this slide or on this chapter, they start talking about spiritual things, and then I thought I'd talk about it. Then there's the third chapter talks about exactly the same thing. Encourage the person's care, family, significant others to feel free to freely discuss spiritual and cultural issues in an open, safe environment within your scope of role. Each, like the base have quite a few, what do they call them? Anyway, people that goes like, spiritual advisors that goes out, and you can call them, and there's quite a few old ladies that come around old age homes as well, that in that role. Have them at schools also. What are the chaplains? So you could call on them to, you know, come and talk about things. Different cultures obviously have different rituals and different things that might happen during this time, and it might not always be documented. So cultural, ethical, religious, spiritual beliefs is obviously shaping the client's choices. Like with the Catholics, they have these in chants or communion, they anoint the sick, so they might come and the priest might come and anoint the person, and then they might have these prayers of condemnation for the dying and prayer for the dead. So they have like rituals around it. I don't really know all their things, but I know they have like anyway. They put candles on, and you know, they ask confessions and things like that. And then, of course, with the Torres Strait Aboriginal people, we have to be real sensitive about that, because often it's unspoken thing. You know, it's not something that they do not want to speak about that, and that's the culture that's like that. And you know, and we have to have respect for that. When it's end of life, you know, a few Torres Strait Islander old darlings have looked after, the whole family come. It's, you know, it's everybody comes and say goodbye, and it's a lot of family in and out. How do they treat? Do they do their own bodies? Depends from family to family where they actually lay the body out afterwards. Is it a cultural requirement? So they will care for mum. Yeah. They've done everything themselves. Yeah. Yeah. And I know, like with, and we always use this as an example, like the New Zealanders, the Maori people, they have a whole huge ritual around funerals, and yeah, so they put the body in a room and then they mourn for them for 5 days. Everyone lives and sleeps and eats there with the body.
Yeah, it's different, but it is, I feel like it's a lot more, you breathe
Properly.
Yeah. Instead of, like, I wish it was more normal in our country, like in our culture, because like,
we don't really say goodbye.
When we lose someone, they
Gospel and that's it.
yeah, they just, like my father-in-law the other month, just at the hospital, leave, don't see him again till the funeral, and then you don't see him for very many.
And I know the Filipinos have a big ritual around that. They also embalm their body and the bodies. Yeah. They do. I've been at Filipino funerals where the body's embalmed and stay there for 5 days. Yeah. Yeah. Embalm. Yeah. So they actually, yeah, they store the blood. They put chemicals in the body to the body don't decay.
Do they do that with the
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So it's actually quite. It's just an injection these days. It's like, yeah. It's like a preservative that they put in the body so the body don't decay and it doesn't smell. Yeah, but so they preserve the body. Yeah, I've been to a funeral, Filipino funeral about 2 years ago where they've had the mum, Ferdinand's mother-in-law.
Oh yeah.
She was at the funeral home for 5 days. Yeah. Yeah. We went about 3 days in a row. I went with Ferdinand and her husband, Mark. It was Mark's mum. Yeah.
Ah yeah.
So yeah.
It was the first married funeral I went to. It was a baby though, but it was in Leeds, in New South Wales, and they just had to keep rubbing moisturiser on the baby.
You see, the funeral directors do it, and Mackay, but I think if you take the body home, then that would be a different, yeah. So I think the funeral director, because they put the makeup on, they embalm the body and they put the makeup on, and then they will be maintaining the body throughout the time, because obviously it's hot or whatever, but they do keep the temperatures down. But it would be more complicated if you are, so it all, every culture is different. I think I read when I was doing my counseling course a few weeks ago on grieving, I was reading about, I think the Maltese people have a unique culture as well, very similar to the Catholics where they have like, like a week later they have a service, and then another 3 months later they have another service, and then a year. It is essential for us to grieve properly, because if we don't grieve properly, it becomes a compound grief, and when it becomes compound grief, it has health effects. So it actually affects your health, where you don't sleep and you can't deal with life because things are just compounding and adding on, adding on, adding on, you know, you don't deal with it properly. So identify issues outside of your scope of role, and a lot of these issues are outside of our scope of role. If you read this book, you'll see that 90% of it you're not allowed to do. Communication, like a good shepherd, you're actually not even allowed to talk to the family. Infection control, yes, that's without in our scope of role. And you know, and forgive me using this reference again, but it's just an interesting fact. In the 1800s, a doctor went in England and he said, when you touch a dead body, wash your hands. And everybody thought he was crazy, you know. But you know what? It says in the Bible, and it was written 4,000 years ago, wash your hands when you touch a dead body. So it's just an interesting fact. But infection control, when you touch a dead body, wash your hands. Okay? There are bacteria and things that are part of the process of decaying the body that, you know, can cause a serious illness. So wash your hands. Safety and emergency procedures, the client's rights, personal care skills, you know, what are we allowed to do when we're caring for people, our, you know, feeding methods, like sometimes there's intravenous methods that people put in place. We had this one lady, she married the man in Good Shepherd, and he was still good and everything, and then she got sick, and I don't know if she had a stroke or something. I actually met her after he died, and she had a peg feed inserted. So he wanted her to have a peg feed inserted, and she then lived with this peg feed another 10 years. He had already passed. And she was just lying there with a peg feed. She was non-verbal, and it's the most horrendous way of living, you know, just carrying on living. You can't swallow anymore, that's failed, and then, you know, yeah, just feeding her through a pipe in her stomach. We have two people like that, but this specific one, and then the husband goes and dies. Leaves her alone. Figures, hey? So that, and when it peg feeds, and we're not really allowed to peg feeds. I learned to do that in the 80s. We were taught how to do peg feed, and we had silk pipes that we would put in their throat to feed them then. Now they actually insert them, yeah. So when it comes to feeding somebody when they're near end of life, they start pulling the food. You have to be real slow. You have to also be real thick fluids and stuff. But normally the speech pathologist would have already done that and prescribed it, and so you just receive the food and having to feed them. I think it's a twist of bliss. What's that? Juice maker. Ninja one, whatever. Yeah. It's a real brilliant thing actually, because you can squash any food like that, you know, and make it a nice soft consistency, something that they would be able to swallow. But when you have to watch, touch them on the chin, and then and just put a little bit, because if they start pulling, if they already start to swallowing, because that's one of the last things to go. One of the last I want to say organs, but one of the last body systems to start failing is your digestive system. And so in your throat, your esophagus is one of the very last body systems to fail. And when it comes to that, where they stop swallowing, you know that it's near the end. And then it will just progressively get harder and harder for them to swallow. So while they're in palliative care, that's normally where we go and we realize, okay, it's not long now. And then the doctors will come to a place where they will say, no, stop feeding now. You know, so then but we have to carry on feeding until the doctor makes that decision, you know. And just watch your clients, even if you just give them a tiny little bit, you've done your job. If you see they're really, really struggling, they're pulling, then I actually don't like even doing that. You know, because I feel the system is failing, let it fail. I've done this study when I did my HK certificate in 2015. I did this study on what happens when you stop eating, like in palliative care. I did it actually as part of my palliative care unit. And the body actually goes into a, what's the word, euphoria? You go into a enlightened stage. Your body goes into a place like, that's why they use fasting, why monks use fasting, and they go away for 40 days. And spiritual people like, Buddha and Muhammad or whatever, they do this fast, this long fast, and they go in this fast. Jesus did it as well. And then they end it, whatever, separated, and then they have these spiritual visions and stuff. So your body naturally goes into a spiritual, what happens is your body releases hormones. And those hormones make you feel super sensitive, and all your senses are supercharged. It's like somebody smoking a joint the first time and they hear the leaves turn around outside and you hear the cricket walking on. That your senses are supercharged when you fast. By the second day, your body goes into that supercharged thing. By the third day, your hearing is like fantastic. So some of your senses are supercharged. No, no, 40 days you have to drink water. You can't, then you'll die after 5 days if you don't drink water. But no eating 40 days. It's not like I don't think the Muslims fast, they still eat at night. So it's not like no food. It's about like a no food fast for a long time period. Gives you that enlightened stage. So they don't actually suffer. What I'm trying to say, they don't actually suffer. So if you think somebody's not eating for 4 or 5 days, they don't actually suffer. They don't feel like we do after we haven't eaten on one day and our tummy is screaming, that you pass that, you pass that. You get to a place where, and so what we do is we just wet their lips. Just keep it wet, put some moisturizer on the lips, and there's some special bottles of, it's like a thickened, sticky type thing that you can wet their lips with. So it stays moist. So obviously water dries up. So you can, keep them comfortable without their mouth getting sores in. You can imagine that some people can get sores in their mouth when it's all dried up and they're lying there with an open mouth because it's all cracked and gets sore inside. So yeah, so that's about the feeding and that part of people in those final stages. So elimination, obviously there's some fluids coming out of your body. Some people, when just after they pass, have a huge bowel movement or fluids coming out. We had one old boy, he had actually must have had some other internal bleeding. I don't know if it was an ulcer or something. He came to us, he was only with us for about 2 weeks. He was so funny. He was this tiny little man and he washed his hands. Every time he washed his hands, he would wash his hands all the way up to here. And, and we all asked him, were you a surgeon in your life or something? And every time he went to the bathroom, he did that. But he was in huge agony pain and we didn't expect, he wasn't on palliative or anything. And and then just suddenly one day he had this massive bowel explosion and it was just blood everywhere. Literally it just went everywhere. So he must have had real bad bleed somewhere in his stomach and it's just, internal bleeding, and he just died just like that. No warning really. Again, pain. He was in so much pain and the doctors didn't do anything about it. We kept saying, he's in pain, please do something about it, and they didn't. Skincare, yeah, like keep them moisturized, put a lot of moisturizer on. It also helps so they don't get sore. You don't want to add to their discomfort. But at the same time, you don't want to move them around too much. But you want to keep the heels moist. Just lift up the heels and give it moisture, Keep the skin moisture if you can when you roll to change the their pads and stuff. Moisturizer their back and their buttocks, they're lying on that whole time. Somebody won't necessarily fall a big hole in their bum on 5 days if they're on end of life, you know. So it's not, you're not trying to have to roll them. Earlier years we used to be so frantic about bed sores that we used to roll people every 4 hours, even when they are on palliative care, because we were so worried that they were going to get big bed sores. It's really not actually an issue, because they're going to die anyways, you know, so you just keep them comfortable. Every time you roll them, you put them in agony again, because if they're aching and paining and then you go and roll them, you're actually adding to the discomfort instead of keeping them comfortable. So the tiniest little movements could be sufficient to just keep them comfortable, but keep their skin moisturized. Then that's with manual handling and transferring, repositioning, turning methods. You know, when you're doing, use these slide sheets. Maybe just bump them up with pillows. So you just turn it slightly, put a pillow behind. Turning the next time, turn them slightly, keep them comfortable, keep them dry. There's normally a recording process involved as well, where you have to go record, and it has things like, did you turn and did you moisturize, and then you tick the boxes, and one of the other things on there would be breathing. So that you check the range of movements and care for their cognitive impairment as well, if they have disabilities or anything like that. Sometimes if the doctors are clued up, they would by now have put a syringe driver on them, and the syringe driver would, it's like an injection that runs constantly, like an intravenous drip, but it's on their tummy in a little plastic box, and in there they would have a combination of pethidine, you know, some drugs combination to keep them comfortable, so that they, and it would run constantly, to keep them at that level where they know, you know, they're comfortable, they know, you know, the pain is not too much. Okay, so one more little video.
None of us ever know when we're going to get sick. And I'm a nurse. I've never had a cigarette. I don't drink a sip of alcohol. I got this disease. What you learn is that you cannot have people around you who are negative, or what I have learned to call the assassins of joy. People that take their daily joy away. It's really key and so important to have people with positive energy in your life, and to surround yourself with as many positive people as you can. There are so many enchanting moments in life, and a lot of them have to deal with interactions between you and strangers. The bagger at the Whole Foods steps up and says, let me bag all your stuff, go to the car with you, put it in the car for you. When you know you have a terminal disease, it makes you enjoy everything. So many of us are so busy all day doing things, we miss enchanting moments. We rarely capture them, and we rarely enjoy them. We need to be grateful and thankful for those moments and remember them, and let them help propel you through the day with joy. I think you need to choose well who you surround yourself with, who you spend your time with, what activities you engage in. It'd be very easy when you're not feeling well to lay in bed for 10 hours and not do anything but watch TV. I choose to paint. I choose to do my art, play the piano. When I go for 5 or 6 hours of chemo, I don't go in my pajamas and sit in a chair like a victim. I bring my watercolors with me, my quilting with me. I bring some activity. I'm extremely busy the whole entire time, and I'm getting my chemotherapy. What you need to do is just to enjoy every moment. You need to surround yourself with good people. You need to live your life with enjoyment, energy, enthusiasm. You need to look around and help people around you, help people in your life. I want to be remembered as somebody who was enchanted by moments all throughout the day, and someone who tried to cause enchanting moments for others. I want to be remembered as somebody that brought joy into people's lives, and who had integrity and was a good person. I want to be remembered as somebody who passionately loves her husband and her children and her grandchildren, and never acted as the victim, but always was acted as the warrior, and was or three, anything.
There's a lady in Mackay. She she's just recently turned 50. She's got MS. You probably all have seen her around town. She's in a motorized wheelchair. A carers take her out. She's so lovely. I won't say her name, but she, you know, people pity her. When you work with her, a lot of people go, oh, sorry, in such an awful state. It's just beautiful. She's got a beautiful face. So, but she's one of those people that wants to know about life. You know, she wants positive things, and when you care for and you go in and you share with her the positive things in your life, she it's so. You wanted to come in? Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna just cover. Okay. Sure. I'll pause it. Didn't you want it to sit in for the Zoom session? This is how. Okay. So. Yeah, so chapter 3, follow the person's advanced care directives in their care plan. We've spoken a little bit about care directives already. Is it working with me now anymore? Interpret and follow the advanced care directives. So we just have to, same as reading a care plan really. In our own work role, organizational, legal and ethical requirements. What is appropriate care? Who makes the difficult decisions? Just again, a bit on the advanced care directives. It's about focusing on the person and the person's views, and it's intended to ensure that the person's preferences and directions are known so they can be respected and honored beyond the loss of decision making. So advanced care directive framework September 2011. I've just dotted some of the dots there. I haven't done all of them. So you have to be competent to make that. So you have to do that when you're still able and competent. The self-deemed directions then delegates a decision to others, making that a collaborative decision. So you have a family member that agrees to, you know, being that person for you. So directives are not just directed at medical treatment decisions. It can also apply to impaired decision-making capabilities. And it's also not just limited to end of life. So if you have dementia or you get dementia, you also make decisions on these advanced care directives that will have impact on the way you receive treatment if you lose your mental capabilities. You can do that yourself. You can get that online. You can do it through a lawyer. Yeah, it is a legal process, so you have to. It's like making a living will. You can do it now. You can do it any time in your life. The sooner you make it, or when you do it, you have to be, declare that you've got all your mental faculties. So you have to do this while not in that situation. It does have to go through a legal process. Yeah, it is a legal process. So it's like then you can't make any. No. You have to do this, earlier in your life. Yeah. I think most people do it in their 60s when they, start doing on their wills. Not everyone's doing it. There's not always that. Where they start doing their wills and deciding where their things will go and whatever, then the lawyer, when you go see a lawyer to do that and sort that out, then they might mention advanced care directives as well, and then get that drawn up as well. So and then go through the process of what would you like, how would you like, just to move, but it has to be a collaborative decision. It decides the preferences of outcome of care and refusal of healthcare, of course, if you don't want to be treated. Like I would not like to be, have any like force feeding. So, but then there's that thing, okay, maybe I draw an advanced care directive up and I have a car accident at 55 and I in a coma and I'd only stay in a coma for a month or two and they have to put a feeding tube in to keep me alive and I might come out of it. But then you might not come out of it. So, it's so there has to be conditions over conditions. Yeah, maybe give it a go for a month. If I'm still not out of it or there's no sign of brain activity after a month, then stop. So it's kind of like a compounding decision. And then making this appointed the substitute decision maker, your SDM. So this is similar to the living will. It's on page 26, the living will. And that just shows you the form that people would fill in with, in a type advanced care directive. There are, is it on page 26? Yeah. So there are different types of forms. It's just like with wills. There's other types of different types of wills. You can buy a will from the post office and have it filled out.
How effective are they? Because they're not following the lawyer, they're just sitting in your house.
They just sit in your house. Yeah, well, your last will can be recorded these days on a video recording. You can record yourself on a video recording, keep the video and tell the family that you have made that recording. And I suppose even with your care directives, if you know what to add in there or you know what to talk about, you can do that in the video recording as well in preparation that it can go to your family. It does help that family don't have to make very hard decisions at a very hard time. Questions that you may ask is, do you want your organs to be donated? This living will, if you don't pass, and what happens to your financial things, when you're still alive, and who gets it, what gets sold, where do you go, where do you want to live, things like that. CPR, special medical power of attorneys, do not resuscitate, all those decisions, and doctors can do that. Yeah. Your doctors can do that. So you could take that to your doctor and they can sign it off, or you can go to your doctor and say, I want to make an advanced care directive, and they can help you to fill it out as well and keep it on file. So when it's your doctor, it's actually quite useful because they'll probably be the ones that will be treating you and, in the final day care or whatever. So then they're aware there's not a DNR on you or whatever, So report the person's changing needs and issues in relation to end of life to the appropriate team members for documentation and in the care plan. The individual support worker has the duty of care to ensure that the clients fully participate in the choices in the immediate advanced care directives, end of life needs and issues. To Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, there's a sincere time of sorrow and fear, and it can be a time of great superstition, and some Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people may take a great amount of care and respect to ensure that the deceased spirit cannot harm any living people. So there's obviously always that respect to say, and they do that on the TV even, so making us aware that there's some cultures are more aware of the spiritual realm than other cultures. I think we've become very desensitized over the years, so things don't really upset us. We see somebody dead on the side of the road, it's like, oh, nothing, we've become so desensitized. Not having, and then that makes us less respectful actually towards other cultures that are more sensitive than what we are. So we have to bear that in mind. Monitor the impact of the person's end-of-life needs and issues and decision-making on the family and significant others, and refer to appropriate members of the care team with organization protocols ensured. And nutrition and hydration, I've actually talked about that, so I'm not going to talk about that again. Deliver services in a manner to support the right of the individual to choose the location of end of life. We had a friend in the UK. He got cancer from asbestos, and he was still young. And actually, yeah, the palliative care team was really good. They brought a bed to his home, and they set up a palliative care room for him at his home. And the nurses came around caring for him at home in his final days. You know, so his wife and his sons was around the whole time with him. You know, they didn't put it. So I'm not sure in Australia if they have that as a big option. I know the Mada Hospital. Yeah. Around, yeah. That's wonderful. I know.
He didn't want to be in the hospital, so he asked if he could go home and then come home and do care. The ones that used to come around and do all the
Medicine, yeah.
Yeah, they brought a hospital bed out and
yeah.
And they come out and then want to put all handrails and but it was too far for them to do anything. But yeah.
It's good when they can, they can be in their own environment. I've always had this dream, and I've never, you know, and it's kind of diverted at the moment, but I've always had this dream to set up a palliative care center where there can be like fish. I envision like ponds where you can fish and then incorporate it with like fish tank, lots of fish tanks, and some horses and dogs and cats and birds and a good old marijuana patch and out in the bush somewhere where if somebody is at that stage that the family can come and live there with them. They can be like a retreat and they can live there and, you know, they can do what they choose to do, whatever they choose to do. I've got friends that are doctors and we've spoken about this, we've idolized about it for a long time. Maybe one day it'll happen. But, you know, to have this environment where people can be comfortable and their family can be comfortable and they can also enjoy the little things. They can enjoy watching the fish and hearing the water run and have a parrot shout at them and, you know, wrap the cat wrap up against you. You know, when you're in a hospital, you don't have your cats and your dogs with you. I want my dog. You know, I want my dog. And I want life. I want birds and have the animals around you, have nature around you where, you know, I mean, it's a natural process, but have the moments, create moments for the family where they can have a little picnic under a tree with the person, and you know, there's moments where you can get some fresh air and sunshine, and you know, and you feel the love of the sun and nature around you. So deliver those, and then it's not always our choice, but we can actually offer those options to our clients, and you know, well, let's book you a holiday out on the you know, on the islands, and go for a weekend on the islands. Enjoy life, that last minutes, you know, and go with them and let them be out there and sit and watch the sun go down and do something beautiful. Yeah, well, that would not then be your problem, eh? But you know what I've also heard, and I might pause with chapter 4, we'll have to go for breakfast, that some people book holidays on these cruise ships to, you know, for palliative care, and they go on these cruise ships because it's cheaper to go on these cruise ships than what it is to go on an aged care facility in palliative care. Yeah, and entertainment, and yeah, and they go for a cruise instead of, you know, going to an old age home. Enjoy your life. If you die, your children or the government will take the money anyway, so you might as well enjoy it, yeah. Right, let's start. So respond to signs of pain and other symptoms. Observe the documentation, the person's pain and other symptoms in line with the care directives, and promptly report to the appropriate member of the care team. So caregiver needs assistance from the healthcare team. So the client is in pain and not relieved by the prescribed dose of pain medication. The client's showing discomfort. So when you come into their, into their room and you find them and you see they're grimacing, they're moaning, they have trouble breathing, and they seem upset. They're unable to urinate or empty their bowels. Maybe they've fallen. They're depressed. They might be crying. They might be talking about committing suicide. The caregiver has difficulty in giving medication to the client. The caregiver is overwhelmed by the client they're caring for the client, or is also too grieved or too afraid to be with the client, or any other time that a caregiver does not know how to handle the situation. So you might be coming into a client's home and the daughter is still there, and you're observing them struggling. You call for help. So when you observe your own client, within your scope of practice, what you guys are allowed to do, there's a heap of other things in there which you're not really allowed to do. So we will be observing them. 9 out of 10 times, we were the ones that will see that they are in pain. There is some pain relief that we allow to do within our scope of practice, which I will go through in a minute. Like massaging them, give them a little bit of a rub, with some heat packs on, repositioning if the pain is not too severe. But obviously, when the pain is really severe, you have to call your supervisor. If the pain is above 3, so normally they have this little thing you look at, you can see if their face, okay, well, they're sore, but they're not that sore, then maybe a heat pack will be enough, ice pack will be enough. But if it's above 3, immediately call your supervisor so that they can come and help. There's also the Abbey Pain Scale, which is in your book on page 43. With the Abbey Pain Scale, you go through, I want to also just look at it. At Good Shepherd Lodge, we have the Abbey Pain Scale we work on, and you ask, so above, underneath, on page 40 is just the Mayflower pain assessment. This pain assessment is a little bit elaborate. You most probably won't have it that elaborate. Most pain assessments are just a small column that you just fill out. You say the client has, you would, like a Good Shepherd, we have the Abbey Pain Scale, which is the one on page 43, where you rate it. So if you hear them whimpering and growling or what, you give them a score of 1. If you see their facial expressions, and so you give them a point for each one. So you add the points together. So if you see them whimpering or groaning or crying, it's 1 point. If you see they also are expressing pain, then you give it another point. If they are rocking or, holding or favoring a body part, you give them another point. If you know their behavior has changed, if they can't tell you, I've got pain between 1 and 10, you ask them, how severe is the pain? This is how you add up the score. If you see they've got temperature, their blood pressure is out of normal limits, or they've got behavior changes. So you add it up. So you can see how it's already added up to 5 or 6. Then obviously that is quite severe. Then after 3, whether you use the Abbey pain scale or you use the how bad is your pain between 1 and 10, and they can verbally tell you, you always call, if it's over 3, you have to call your supervisor. But you put this pain scale in. So if you then have added up to 5 and you put 5 into your pain assessment, so your pain assessment would start off with a date and the person's name, and then it would say how severe is the pain. And you would go, it's a 5 because you've added up on Abbey, you've used the Abbey pain scale to add it up. When you come to 5, all the client has said verbally, you might indicate I've used the Abbey pain scale, or you can indicate the client verbally said to me, it's 5. Then you call your supervisor, then your supervisor will say, okay, well, you put it ice pack on so long, I will give some Panadol. Then they come and they get. Then 2 hours later or hour later, you go back and you then do again the Abbey pain scale, or you ask them how are you feeling now? How's your pain now? And then they'll say, oh, it's got a 3. Then that's when you finish the assessment. So the assessment is before the pain rate, what you've done, and pain rate after. So it's not very, it doesn't have to be like on the other patient's 5 pages. It can be a simple little 3-step process where it's the pain before, what did you do about it, and the pain after. You know, the level of pain after you have given them some sort of a treatment. Yes. So you add the total up by that, and you know, at the Shepherd Lodge we have this on the computer. So when we tick the boxes, it adds up the pain, the score. So it'll say, do you hear them growl? And you tick the box, yes. Do you see them grimacing? You tick the box, yes. Have they got temperature? And you tick the box, and automatically it adds up the score. And then the score sits there in the beginning of your pain assessment. And then you can say, well, okay, we repositioned the client, we rubbed some cream on her, called the RN, and the RN has come and given her some Panadol. And you add the RN in put a name in the assessment as well, and then you end the assessment off by saying an hour later you have to go and access the same assessment and say, approach the client, this is the time, and then ask the client, how are you feeling now? She's now feeling much better. Or sometimes it might be you go back in an hour and they're sleeping, which is good because that means that, and you put it in there, went back, time's restful, they're sleeping now. And you know, you've hit the nail, you know, they sorted, they looked after.
What would you let them bother taking pulse because it might wake them up? Or would you?
Yeah, no, I think you would leave them resting, and when they wake up, you can do some observations again. Yeah, unless they've had a fall, that's different. You have to bump their head. You have to do assessment, try to keep them awake, but otherwise you let them sleep and you know get the rest. Obviously, if they've been in pain all night and the first time they rest now, you're going to want them to rest for as long as possible. I've got another little video.
There's much more to pain relief than just paracetamol, and many of them are cheap and easy to do. Knowing what kind of pain relief will be effective starts with pain assessment. If the pain is fairly low, you might just want to use an ice pack. Or if the pain is a little higher, you might want to use some painkillers and a complementary method of pain relief. The science behind the effectiveness of aromatherapy can be hard to prove, as it is hard to control the air that we breathe. That being said, there are some essential oils that have some good science behind them. Lavender and peppermint oil have several properties: calming, analgesic, and antiemetic. If you can't get hold of the pure essential oils to have on a burner or diffuser, try on your nose, you can try feeling your rubber glove with some ice gel and lightly draping it across your face for 10 minutes. Out of colectomy, why not try sipping some cold ice water? We are living beings within nature. Nature has not moved in on us. Our brains are wired to different. And now there is science to prove that our health does better in green spaces. So why not take some time to walk to a local park? Heat pads are great for muscle aches and pain. Be careful when using heat pads on fresh surgical wounds as it can cause harm. Also be especially careful when using heat if you're using strong painkillers, as you might not be able to feel they are too hot. Music therapy can combat pain by activating the brain's reward center. The neurotransmitter dopamine is released, and it's the chemical associated with pleasure. Listen to some of your favorite music and just feel the pain melt away. Progressive muscle relaxation and meditation trigger the relaxation response. There are many resources available online to guide imagery, progressive muscle relaxation, nature sounds, and meditation.
So that, and quite often when people are on palliative care or end of life care, they use these essential oils in the rooms. The duties put essential oils in the room. You can see the benefit from that. Putting music on, you know. And we saw in dementia care as well how essential music is. I remember when I was pregnant with my boys, we did prenatal care, and part of our prenatal care was learning relaxation techniques because it releases dopamine. So when the labor pains come, you lie and you focus on relaxing your feet, and your legs, and your back, and you know, you specifically focus on your back. And then if you can have that, if you can master that relaxation technique, you can actually go, you know, sort of go through the pain without tensing and making it worse. So, and these are the type of things that is accessible for us. You know, we be able to help our clients when they are going through, you know, palliative care, end of life care, and they don't have sufficient pain care, you know. Yeah, get some essential oils, get a burner. These days you get electrical burners with essential oils in, which is safer. And then music, like, you know. Yes, the diffusers, yeah. So, and music, you know, that's within our reach and it's within our power to do that. You can get permission to put a heat pack on or put an ice pack on, but you might have to get permission to do that. But if you're in somebody's home and they already have their heat pack or the doctor prescribed it for them, then feel free to use it, you know. But again, the safe heat packs are the electrical ones. These ones where you heat it up in the microwave, they can, like if you've had pain relief, it can be too hot and it can burn them. So yeah, cup of tea, of course. Yeah, chamomile, peppermint tea, make them a nice cup of tea.
I've got the doTERRA.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't done it for so long, but I used to just get a cup of hot water and I would put a drop of peppermint oil in there. But holy shit, it's the first smell of it really like blows your head off. And someone said, no, you're only supposed to put like a toothpick in there and then stick it in the water and stir it, got a whole drop. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's that. You put a whole drop in there.
Yeah, and I imagine you put a little bit of that in there when you give them a little wash. Yeah. You know, you put a tiny bit of that like in their wash water, in their basin, in their water, and you give them a little wash with a bit of peppermint oil. Yeah, as well as taking them for a little walk in the garden. You know, take them, put them on the wheelchair, and take them for a little stroll in the garden. Go sit underneath the tree outside with them. You know, just to get them to be in nature, be out there, and it's helpful for them to take their mind off the pain, you know. Yeah. Sit outside a little bit, get out there and have a bit of time outside with them. I couldn't download this video, so it might take just a little bit to open. So this is about regulating, evaluate, document, and document effectiveness of implemented strategies, as well as other things. So this comes from one of the palliative care websites. I think it's an Australian website, I think this doctor is an Australian doctor. And it's taking a while to open. It's just a summary of most of what we've spoken about so far. The internet is of course overloaded at the moment. There's 200 students on it. I might just carry on until that just starts to open. We'll hear it when it starts talking. So when
this other things here, this is only for everyone or anything. What is the person that I think?
yeah, obviously then their pain, you know, if their tolerance is better, then they can manage better. So, yeah. And, you know, I mean, I'm surprised about the effectiveness of paracetamol. A lot of all these are just on paracetamol. You think, oh, it's, you know, is that sufficient? Is that enough? But these days, with the Panadol Osteo and the slower release ones, they're actually pretty good. So, you know, what is this thing going? Oh, there you go.
Hello, I'm Lee Hatcher from Palliative Care Public Affairs in conversation with Dr. Elspeth Corrie on clinical issues in end-of-life dementia care. Elspeth is staff specialist palliative care at Palliative Care's Braeside Hospital. Great to have you with us. Our Palliative Care Bridges series brings together a vast array of experience, expertise and wisdom from many experts in the palliative care arena. Our aim is quite simple: to equip health professionals to better help people who choose to spend their final days at home. In a nutshell, it's actually about supporting you right to the very end. But you say there are 3 difficult treatment decisions that the health professional will face in the context of dementia.
The treatment decisions are difficult actually because it's the family members or the concerned decision makers who need to make these decisions with their healthcare providers. And those main decisions are related to swallowing, nutrition and hydration, food infections, and also whether the hospitalised person is in stage or advanced dementia.
From your experience, what are the most common symptoms noted in the stage of life?
And so in the last 3 to 6 months, you know that the main symptoms of experience include pain, about 50%, breathlessness again, about 50%, and also agitation.
It's important to set some sort of framework up for this kind of care. What's that going to look like for the person?
The NHMRC actually has an ethical approach in palliative care guidelines for situations like this for a chronic progressive illness. And I actually think using the image of the bushra doll can be helpful in understanding this. And really, the first point is that it's regarding the person themselves. So really give the person being provided care for. And with dementia, that's also significantly looking at the fact that the carers, the surrogate decision makers, are the advocate for that person and they're essentially the decision issues are if they have advanced mental understanding that that needs to return care. So that's your first point, your smallest one. The next one surrounding that has to be clinically effective. So that's the decisions that the clinicians are making are really informed by best practice, that they know the benefits and the risks for this particular person of the options for treatment for that at that time. It also means that the clinician needs to have an understanding as well of advanced dementia, and if the person's comorbidities with them, make the right decision for that person. The next layer is regarding justice. So it's looking at justice for the person themselves and their family, the healthcare system and society at large, regarding not overtreating or undertreating, and also regarding what the limited resources are within a community, and that may be the resources of the family to be able to provide care, the resources of the healthcare system, but then make sure that we've got just and equitable use of resources. So then the last layer of what is the goal is going back that it's all about what is in the best interest of the employees.
So at the end of the day, it's basically about respect for everything.
So it is sometimes you can decide about if someone has advanced dementia who can't communicate with you. It's definitely about respect for them as a person.
It's important to see this kind of care as a partnership across numbers of levels.
Yes. So the biggest partnership really is with the carer or the surrogate decision maker, because they are the people who have the decision person at heart and who know them and understand them well, but they need to be informed. So that's the big partnership.
Three important stages of setting goals for this kind of care.
When we're talking about goals of care for someone with advanced dementia or goals of care in general, there's three types of levels of care. First of all, you've got active care, which is that your goal is around prolongation of life and fully actively treating problems. The next layer under a palliative approach is that you are looking at comfort being a significant goal, but you would still be looking at treating and investigating reversible problems when they are going to improve the quality of life and perhaps also give someone longer to live. And that's usually part of the palliative approach, unless the decision maker has said we just want limited investigations and treatment, our goal is more towards comfort. Then the final stage really is looking at end of life care, terminal care, and really for someone who has stage for them.
So what are the harder kind of clinical treatment decisions?
A lot of the hard decisions are around reduced oil intake. Everyone feels that eating is necessary for life, and so when they feel their life on advanced dementia, not maintaining their weight, having trouble with swallowing, having trouble with hydration and nutrition, they are very low. So with that particular decision, part of it is education to understand that in advanced dementia, and it is expected that people will be losing life over the last 12 months or so, but they really haven't told us so for at least that time. So education is a really important part of that. But it's also about if someone has developed those problems, you're looking, like we talked about looking and investigating for reversible problems, you're looking to see if there are reversible problems related to perhaps the way that food's being offered, the smell of the food, offering a small amount often, perhaps looking at dental problems. There's a whole stepwise progress of looking for reversible causes before then getting to the point where you say what you do, you're not able to sometimes everything very much. One of the big issues here is whether there's a role for peg or peg feeding, being with the tubing of someone. A lot of families ask, isn't this what we should do because my loved one can no longer eat the food anymore? And the research today is very much that there isn't a benefit for the person with advanced dementia in looking at peg feeding, not just because the procedure itself can have some risks and benefits, or some risks really in this situation. Also, it's been shown that it doesn't actually improve the nutritional status. It doesn't reduce the risk of pressure areas, and it also doesn't reduce the risk of aspiration pneumonia. And more than that, the actual social side of eating, which is spending time with somebody and the physical touch, is lost when you've got peg feeding.
What about infections? Another issue?
Infections are the other big issue that I think is with the hospital, and the other big issue that's a decision around whether antibiotics have a role or not. So again, in the last year of life, it's really important that families understand that infections, recurrent infections, are going to be part of the progress of dementia. As someone's immunological state reduces and they just don't have the capacity to fight infections. So in a lot of situations where it actually doesn't need to be role antibiotics, with urine infections, they're very common for somebody who's older. And so just because you have bacteria in your urine doesn't mean that they should be treated with antibiotics. With the issues around pneumonia and aspiration pneumonia, also
someone with end-stage dementia, it is also known that although antibiotics may prolong the time that somebody has after infection, we also know that the comfort level of comfort at that stage is the main focus involved, is not necessarily improved by antibiotics. Also, we know that oral, intramuscular, and intravenous antibiotics have a similar effectiveness of improving survival compared to no antibiotics. So from that point of view, that can be offered in a nursing home or home, doesn't need to have a hospital admission.
Can you list off some of the main symptoms of a person with dementia in this context? Will you demonstrate?
So pain is always one that's worried about, and again, when someone's talking about comfort, they want someone to be pain-free. Assessing for pain in dementia is tricky because you can't just ask the question. Now, having said that, first of all, you should always presume that someone with dementia is able to communicate their needs well and ask the question. And often you can get a response that's more informative than you might think. So that's the first point, is actually asking. But it's also looking at what time of day, what type of behaviours seem to be causing a particular response, and it's looking at behavioural responses. So they're the types of things that we use in dementia with someone who has dementia, let's know that someone has pain. But also look at your full physical examination, top to toe. It's not enough to just say there's some behavioural concerns. So it's really an impeccable assessment, which is one of those important things about palliative care. Then the actual way you treat the pain is similar to the way you treat pain, as in the guidelines that Melanie Love just talked about in one of the other videos. As far as assessing whether the medication has been a benefit or the strategy to use has been a benefit, again in dementia, with someone with dementia, you're not just able to say, did that work well? So you're looking at changes in behaviour, you're looking at changes in activity levels to help you with that. You also can't know if they've got side effects in the medication. So you have to be very vigilant in the way for assessing someone after you've given them a change in medication or a strategy to help them.
Is there one particular story that comes to your mind that demonstrates?
Sure. Look at the pain. This particular chap that I can remember clearly, who when I first saw him, he was actually calling out, help me, help me, help me. And the staff just felt that that was perhaps the vocalisation. But he definitely vocalised his pain for the suprapubic area, and I thought he might have been in retention of urine and also had some constipation. It was a complex situation where we couldn't actually put a catheter in the urgent facility because he had surgery that area. And I felt that in that context, even though it was a chap with advanced dementia, most appropriate thing was going to hospital to be able to have that blood assessed. He was in retention, he had terrible fecal impaction. Those things were actually fixed. It was difficult to fix because it refused our care for some time at the facility we were in. With treating those problems, we went back to having a very small dose of pain relief. Having been on a very large dose of pain relief before, his behaviour can't be resolved. Back in the wheelchair, pushing himself around the facility. No significant change. Another symptom that's commonly a problem in the last 6 months of life is agitation. And insomnia is another one that causes a lot of problems for families, particularly in someone with advanced dementia. So really we need to look at that as being the way they communicate and try and work backwards. What might they be trying to say with this behaviour? So there's a simple way of looking at this. We look at the environment that they're in, and the things within the environment may have been really like the temperature, the noise level, some of those type of things. We look at the person themselves and what physical needs they may have that may need to be addressed. That might be inflammatory, it might be a behavior. So we look at those type of things. We look at the care being provided and say, hey, is there some misfitting between the care, the way the care is provided care and the needs of the person? Because a lot of times there's one person that has a really easy time caring for someone and other people struggle with sharing that information. We also have to look at whether there might be a medical cause of the problem. Maybe that they have a urine or confusion or infection. Maybe they've had an unnoticed fall and you don't know they've got themselves somewhere. Or it might be that they're uncomfortable from arthritis or pain. So they're the types of things that we need to look at. And to manage the underlying cause is the best strategy, first of all, in managing behaviour. Next, we go to the DBMAS, which is the Dementia Behaviour Management Advisory Service. And we also advise if they're not getting anywhere. Medications have quite a low role, they're really a secondary thing. And if you need to use medications, we should be asking for specialist advice, and certain behaviours do respond to medication. So I think that's probably the best starting point.
Thank you so much for doing that. If you'd like more information.
Okay, chapter 5, I actually can only skim over with this because we've actually discussed most of the little issues anyway. So regularly check for changes in the on the care plan that indicates decisions that have been made by the person, and review this. That's straightforward in that chapter. And provide a supportive environment for the individual, for their family, or in a significant others, and involve them in the end of life care. We've spoken about that already as well. Respect and support the person's preferences and their culture when providing end-of-life care, and according to their care plan and their role. We've spoken about that in different cultures. Obviously, keeping in mind the religious aspects that there might be. People think about, what's in the afterlife, and consider that. Maintain their dignity with the person in providing and planning end-of-life care and immediately following death. Again, I think I'm going to speak a bit on that in a minute. Recognizing any signs of the person's immediate death or deterioration, and report that to the appropriate member of the care team in line with the organization's policies and procedures. And then provide emotional support to other individual carers and families or significant others when the death has occurred, in line with our scope of practice. So, recognizing any signs on the person's immediate death or deterioration, and report appropriate member of care to the care team, depending on the organization. So, the signs that we might be able to recognize is that they might be becoming confused about time and place and the identity of their loved ones. Now, what happened with my mum my brother passed away last year in December. I think he either had malaria or he might have overtaken pain medication because he died from liver failure. He was also a big drinker anyways, but I don't think he was drinking the last few years. He had come off the rock, but whether he had fallen back in that, I don't know. His girlfriend he was living with at the time had just found him in the bathroom, and he had died, just suddenly. He was only 48 when that happened. That was in December, 1st of December. My dad also died on the 1st of December, 4 years ago. So just before Valerie was born in 2017, because my dad had died in 2016 in December, in January 2017, my sister phoned me, her daughter phoned me, and they were frantic on the phone, and they said, "Mum, stop eating." And they were just really, really frantic. It was towards the end of January, and so we booked tickets immediately. We got on the plane, we flew there, 35 hours. We phoned my mum, we said, "Well, please wait, keep coming." We knew it was because of my dad's death, and we knew she just didn't want to live anymore. And because she's disabled, she wasn't able to know how to deal with grief. So we flew there and we encouraged her, and she got up and she started eating again. She got better. She got happy and healthy again. She got a boyfriend, and life went on. We should have recognized the signs. Really, we should have. So after my brother died, I think it was such a shock for all of us that we didn't even really think of her, And then COVID happened, and she's isolated in the older child, not allowed to see my sister, not allowed to go out. And my brother's birthday, my sister SMS'd me 4 or 5 days later. She said, "Mum, stop eating on the 7th of July." And I think as she was SMSing it, she realized it was my brother's birthday. So, so she stopped eating on the 7th of July last month. And then she I think I might have told you about it. She went into hospital, and her electrolytes fell, and blood pressure fell, and her electrolytes was really low as well. So because she became dehydrated, and she actually damaged her kidneys through that process. And having such low blood pressure, the blood pressure falls under 100. So those are signs that you can look out for. Blood pressure falls really, really low. the oxygen levels fall really low. The oxygen levels fall below, well, 93, 94 is a good oxygen level. If it goes below 91 and it starts going to 90, it's really severe. Blood pressure is like 100, 105, 117. Sometimes the blood pressure falls below 100. Then you know, the chances are that their heart will stop, which happened with her. Her heart stopped. They resuscitated her. She came okay again. They had her on drip, and so she went back to the home. But about 2 weeks ago, she started getting confused again over time. They were giving her insurance stuff, and she didn't recognize my sister. So that's one of the things, they do not recognize you. You know, they start, they get withdrawn, they're social withdrawn, and it's just purely not, in my mom's case, is because she's disabled. She was not able to deal with the grief. She did not know how to cry and, you know, and think about things without feeling completely overwhelmed. So that's where they decline food. They don't feel like eating. It's not that they purposely don't want to eat. It's just they just don't feel like eating. They lose their appetite. It's just things are just too hard. So those are signs also. We should have actually known and seen the signs. And of course, we couldn't jump on the plane this time because it's 2 weeks in quarantine. When you get there, 2 weeks, and you leave. When you come back, it's another 2 weeks. So who has 6 weeks on their leave, you know? So then loss of bladder control, she messaged me. She said to me, "Oh, I need nappies now." My mom should have known it. You should know all these things, and you don't see it when it happens here. And that one happens right in front of your eyes. Look at those things. Yeah, just keep them clean and dry and comfortable as possible. Obviously, you know, changing their aids and make sure they darkened urine. So obviously, because they're dehydrated, their urine will be dark and dark color, which shows you that their kidney function is good. But she's damaged the kidneys already for the first time around, you know. So yeah, so the skin and the becomes cool to touch. It's like cold, damp feeling. Sometimes you can see the nails turn color. It goes like blue, and sometimes around their mouth as well, it goes blue. You can tell. I sat next to one of my old boys the one time, and I could literally see the blood drain out of him. Yeah. You know, his fingers got blue, and then his hands got blue, and I just sat with him. He was we called him Opa Zayt. He was a very good friend of mine's grandpa, and I just sat with him until he passed away, and I just sat next to him.
And then it's like, and then like you really lift up and
you can see the blood drain out of them. Yeah. So rattling sounds, like when my sister phoned me on Saturday, and she said she's breathing like this. Yeah, that's the draft there. And sometimes they stop breathing for a little bit. And then it's like change, that's called change stoking. So when you see that, so the breath per minute is different. So maybe you can help by turning them a little bit just to help with the breathing. External source of oxygen may be beneficial or not. I had an old boy, he was really struggling with breathing. We put him on the oxygen still, but his oxygen level just kept, his body wouldn't keep the oxygen, so it just kept dropping. So turning the head towards light, a light source causes a decrease in vision. If you know what that's on there. So probably not to do that. Leave a soft indirect light on in the room. Increase the difficult controlling the pain. So that may be caused by the progression of the disease or the terminal illness they have. The caregiver should contact the doctor if the prescribed dose doesn't seem adequate. So if you see they they are in pain and it's not enough, then keep on to the nurses and the doctors. Go grab them and pull them on the hair or something. That can be so hard to communicate with sometimes. With the help of the healthcare team, caregivers should also explore methods such as a massage or relaxation techniques. We looked at the different things, get a diffuser, put the music on, try to make the environment comfortable and beautiful and nice. Put some flowers in the room and, make the room smell nice and warm for them. So they might be involuntary movements, so they might jerk, spasms. That's happened because of changing heart rate and loss of reflexes in the arms, so the legs does that. So then the end of life is near. So what are the signs that the clients passed away? So obviously they won't be any breathing, their pulse would stop, their eyes won't be blinking anymore. Their eyelids would be slightly open, their jaw full open like that. And then of course they release their bodily fluids. So they don't respond anymore. So when that happens, caring for the body, place the body on its back with maybe one pillow on. Do you have problems laying somebody out? Is it hard for you? Have you done it? No, haven't done it. So lay them on the bed, with just one pillow under their head, close their mouth. You can always take a towel and roll the towel in a roll and put it here so that it holds the mouth closed. You need to try to do that within the first half hour after they passed away. Yeah, so when rigor mortis sets in, their mouth will stick open. Sometimes the pet caretakers and the caretakers don't stretch them with glue or something. But if you can be with them when they go, when they leave, and you can, as soon as possible, close their mouth and close their eyes, then you can probably overcome that. So when rigor mortis sets in, their mouth is closed. So some family members prefer that you leave the dentures in or you put the dentures back in if they have dentures. I found through the years that quite often when people, because they often is for a long time of not eating properly, they've lost so much weight that dentures don't fit. It's a real frustration. So I don't actually, I hardly ever do that because it feels like the dentist is going to fall back in their mouth. So it's, it's not, it doesn't sit nicely anymore. They've lost so much weight that the dentures are not too big or, too small or whatever. So, yeah, but just remember to close their eyes. And what we always do is we do wash them. You wash them also soon after they pass, then you can, it's easy to take the gloves off. It's not that hard. Obviously, when the water sets in, then they might be a little bit more stiff. The family normally would have put out a set of clothing that they would want you to dress them in. Put clean linens on the bed, change your bed completely and change them completely and give them a little bit of a wash. It doesn't have to be very terrible. It can be top and tail, just keep their faces nice and clean. Make sure they patch, change regular last fluids are not sitting on the body, and dress them nicely, clean the room. I always put a little flower on them. There's always these plastic flowers around the home. I always go and get a plastic flower and just put it in. So when the family comes in, the person looks beautiful. You've combed their hair and you've taken care of the body. It's a privilege to do that, and when you do that, put some music on. Make it also for you like a ritual when you're also saying goodbye. So while you're saying goodbye to them, because you cared for them up till that point, they've just gone into the next room. I believe that's my belief, and and I have the privilege to be with them when they go. Obviously, I've had ladies. I had an RN, very good friend of mine. She was from Nepal, And because of the cultural background, she just really couldn't do that. She couldn't go into the room. She couldn't touch the body, and she would stand at the door and ask us to do the observation. I think she would have been challenged by now because she went to the base after that, and you know, obviously you can't be an RN if you can't do that. So, but yeah, prepare the body and make it pretty, and then you call the family back in. So the family would have been there 9 out of 10 times when under the final moment. Then you ask them to leave, and you just, you know, prepare the room, prepare the pack all the clutter away. There's also a lot of clutter in the room. Cushions lying around and pieces of blankets falling up everywhere and stuff everywhere. I always go get a wheelchair and put a big bag, or if you've got a trolley, go, you know, take all the clutter out, all the extra blankets and extra pillows and all the extra bits, and clean the room up a little bit. It's not about cleaning, it's more just about presenting that moment for the family to come back in and say goodbye. And some cultures, of course, they would like to prefer doing that themselves. So it's okay if the family member wants to be part of that and make it a joyful experience for them as well, you know, joyful, but a respectful experience that, you know, they see you respecting their, and it's all about respect. That's what it's about, you know, respecting them and caring for them. Understanding the stages of grief and people when they denial and then shock, when they're angry and they feel guilty, when they start bargaining, when there's sadness, and you know, and then on the final stage when there's some acceptance. Manage your own emotional response and ethical issues, and follow the policies and procedures managing your own emotional response. Identify and reflect upon your emotional response to the death of the dying and raising and discussing any issues in relation to your supervisor. When you're feeling overly sad or down in the dumps, you lose interest in things that you used to enjoy at some stage. If you, with at least 4 of the following nearly every day, then you need to go and see somebody. So if you can tick 4 of these boxes, then you are actually probably severely affected and you need to do something about it. Losing weight, feeling tired all the time, have low energy, difficult concentrating or making decisions, feeling worthless or guilty, trouble sleeping, or you're sleeping too much, you just want to sleep. Obviously, thoughts of death or suicide, and taking a lost history. Taking a lost history. So you're thinking about, you know, your mind never stops to sort of think. So look after yourself if you do find yourself in situations. It's kind of like a grieving process that you'll be going through as well. If you're working with people, if you work in a facility, you lay out some of the people that you cared for a few years, and also working obviously with people with dementia and other issues. These things all compound. You know, it might not just be caring for somebody and that has passed away, but that might be the final straw. You know, it's all the other difficulties and situations that all compound into this, you know, that being the place where you say, well, I'm really not a good place. And seek for help. Raise these ethical issues or concerns with your supervisor. If you don't feel in control of yourself and you are not in control of the situation and you are struggling, raise it with your supervisor. They might not always listen to you. You might have to go to your doctor and say, look, I'm not coping. You know, please help. My husband went to the doctor last week and she booked him off for 2 weeks after him to see his mum. He's sitting at home, irritating me. One of my students left her husband after 49 years, thinking 25 years. Wonder. Identify actions and self-care strategies and address the potential impact on your personally and the response on yourself, and access also the bereavement care and support from other team members if you need it. Reactions to loss of individuals, expressions of grief and bereavement. Grief is an universal occurrence and it crosses all ages, all cultures. This is a highly personal process, and experiencing reactions to receive loss of mourning, the social and cultural defined behavior and space of grief. So we all grieve differently. We all go through it differently. I'm one that I get this bouts of crying and then I cry my heart out where I really, and usually it's in the car where there's no one, and then I was wondering, these people are driving past, you must go crazy. Driving down the road, just make sure I'm not driving to anything when there's no one around. Because when I'm really crying and grieving, I don't want anyone touching me or coming near me. And it's, you know, it's normally when you are by yourself and you do stop and you have time to reflect that, you know, but we all grieve differently, you know. I remember when my first husband died, man, I was a mess. I cried all the time. You know, and then my grandma got sick, and then she died, and that, you know, it's just, I cried. I never, you know, it's just, but I think as you grow up and you know, life takes and you get wiser, and you know, you learn to manage things. I have also taught myself to cap my thoughts. So if I feel my mind is racing out of control, I have taught myself meditation techniques where I can shut my mind off, you know. So, and it's good if you can practice some sort of meditation technique where you can shut your mind off when you're tired and still racing. Our brain sometimes can drive us insane. Stop it. Yeah, and just you know, have techniques. Yesterday I was thinking when I started, I think it's time to go see I think I can benefit from a session to my counselor. Not so much for the grieving process, but for everything else, and you know, and you have to just listen to yourself, care for yourself, and that. If any one of you feel, I want all of you to go out if you're confident to be able to take care of this. I know it's a scary thought. It might not ever come. You might not ever be in that situation. Because I worked in aged care, I have laid out, I don't know, I've lost count how many people I've laid out over the years. But I've had my best friend Lynn, she's been same amount of years in actually she's never ever laid out a body. She makes herself thin when there's any talk of it, and then she just disappears. Where's Lynn gone? Nobody knows. And it is okay. It is okay. If you do not feel comfortable with it, it's okay. There are people that do love doing this, and there are people that do not love doing this. There are people that can clean up vomit, and then there's people that can clean up mucus, and then there's people that can clean feces. I can clean feces and I can clean vomit, but I can't clean mucus. So now let's understand each other here. Brenda Leader came in just now. Somebody outside the building, yeah, like a big brain, like, nearly my tummy turns, I tell you. Brenda, you went to get the bucket and she went to clean it up. So you call yourself a nurse. I said, no, can't do that. You know, not all of us can do everything. We do not get along with everyone. There's no perfect world. This is an imperfect world with imperfect people. If you guys are not positive and confident, just come and talk to me. If you feel overwhelmed, please come and talk to me. I can put you in contact with some people. I do know a few helpful professionals that have you know, that might be able to, you know, counselors, people that might be able to help you. Go see your doctor. Let them, you know, let the doctor put you on a healthcare plan. We have the advantages in Australia that there is care and there is, you know, funding and things for that can help us. So please stay back if you'd like to talk to me. And thank you for listening to me. Okay. We've got a few minutes. I didn't think I was going to. That's a bit. Okay. I might just move this back here. There we go. I haven't prepared the question, so we'll have to do it together. It was so late last night by the time I finished this. I looked at the assessment and I said, if you have to have this, I said, no, I've got good students, they will help me. We'll find the answers together. Okay, question 1. The underlying psychology of palliative approach is approach towards death and dying. Yeah. Yeah. Both, I would say both B and C. Yeah, an open attitude. So yeah, it's not being scared of it, but just, you know, try to speak openly about it. It's like suicide as well. If you don't call it out, somebody might go and do it. If you call it out, you might save a life. Give 4 examples of actions that you may take in a positive, in a palliative care approach. What do you think?
So on page 6, it provides relief from pain, alcohol, things like things not. Is that what you're thinking of?
Sorry again? Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Page 6, it says provides relief from pain and other distressing symptoms, terms life with regard to dying. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that could be as well, because that sounds good. Yeah, recognizing pain symptoms. So those are, I'm just trying to see where the model answers for each of them. Yes, definitely. So they can pain free and that they, oh, why is this? No matches. So let's talk about, so yeah, maximizing, assisting spiritual aspects, providing support, using a palliative approach, recognizing symptoms of pain, maintaining their dignity. I don't know, I can't find it. There are some on page 6, but not all of them. How many is on page 6, learning guide? No, sorry, just a sec. I'm just gonna open the other book that I have here. Maybe this. We're still on question 2. We haven't found the answer on one page yet. Nothing nice.
Yeah, you can just know.
I'm just gonna look at this one if I've got any ideas. Sometimes they have. Not, they don't. I should have spent a bit of time looking at it last night. I'll just ignore.
Or was that now thinking?
Support, so oh, come on.
What did it say in the list?
So give 4 examples of palliative approaches with people in your workplace. Yeah. Quality of life. So it must be about the care team, page 12. Let's look at page 12. No matches. There's no matches for the answers. So I don't think the answers are straightforward. So it could be include. It just could include. So just think about it, I think, and just write something out of your thoughts. Don't look at it in the book. Actions you take in the palliative approach. So you know, it's about caring for the family members. It's about caring for that person that you are looking after, making sure they're comfortable, making sure the family members are also, you know, have that emotional support and informed. And those ones, yes, that would be, yeah, use those, yeah. It's not in my model answer, but those are the ones. That's definitely so. Support for the family, respect to their choices is assisting them with difficult choices. It's a team approach. Question 3 is all of the above. Sometimes carers can be all of those people. Question 4 is all of the above. Who do you have to need to be respectful to in their life choices? Okay. Question 4. Question 5 is C. Yeah, refer to the appropriate member. Question 6. Be careful what you say. Okay, 21, 23, thanks for that. Here you go. Question 7 is true. So advanced care directive becomes effective when the person can't make their own choices anymore. Question 8, advanced care directive is also called a living will. Yes, that's right.
Sorry, say that again?
A living will.
Yeah.
Question 9, the person's care will outline the end-of-life decisions that you'll need to comply with. It's important that you have ongoing discussions with relevant people and keep that up to date. True. Question 10, family and loved ones often insist on feeding the dying person. Why do you think is that?
Page 35, nutritional hydration,
So it's about them being worried that, you know, that if they don't eat, if they don't feed themselves. So this is on page 35. It may be because if they feel that they don't feed them,
they feel like they're giving comfort and disturbing.
yeah. Or they might look like they don't care. Where did you find that confidence?
The first paragraph on the family nutrition says the family care.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. That's it. So there's 2 bits that you can take. That seems to be right. And sometimes I feel also that they be suffering if they don't eat. Like, you know, like, oh,
What's that thing?
yeah, you gotta eat, you know, I'm gonna suffer if you don't eat. But often that they feel nauseous, or, you know, they just don't want to eat. You know, some of those pain medications, especially morphine, makes you really, really nauseous. So a person in palliative care does not have the right to choose. False. Question 12, when you are with the person in palliative care, you observe symptoms of pain, you need to document observation and report it. And you also have to implement strategies to promote comfort. A and D, yeah. So D, yeah. Question 13, effectiveness of strategies to provide comfort to a person in palliative care should be regulated and evaluated and documented. Yes. But often they have like a palliative care plan. Earlier years, we used to have it in the folder, and you'd have it in their room, and on there you would document every time you go in there and care for them. Because obviously you also have to keep in mind that some family members can be so distorted that they'll be angry with the company because they feel their loved one hasn't received the proper care. Some strange things comes out when people are in the last, you know, days, fighting, and sometimes I've seen family members fighting over their dying mum, or, you know, arguing in the room. You need to ask them to go out. If they're arguing with someone else, you know, that person's senses are hyper there, they can hear everything, you know. It's horrible for them to live in this. And they will also blame themselves later on. They look back. Give an example of a misconception related to pain relieving medication that sometimes present in the workplace. That's true. Yeah, and often it's about, you know, like they might become drug addicts. That's another misconception. They might become addicted. Why would you become addicted? Yeah, that's on where you with that.
48.
48, so I can't find it. Yeah, they might become addicted. Chronic pain. That's 48. Yeah. So they may become addicted. They will run out of pain relief too early, so it might not be enough. They should just stand the pain. Some side effects is as bad as the pain. Those are kind of the main headings there. Strong, yeah, very strong and analgesics may shorten life, which is just 15. While following person end of life care strategies, it's important that you all of the above. Question 16. What would you do when you notice signs of the person's immediate death? What would you do? Report.
Report to your supervisor.
Absolutely, that's all you have to do, report. That's your first step of anything, everything that goes out of in our industry that happens is reporting. Straight away, call your supervisor.
So would you record that as well?
55, yes. 5.5. It's just the heading of it, hey? Yeah.
What you actually read in it actually seems to know none of what you just said.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Usually when I go through it, it's there, but.
Yeah, no, this one is not there. So it's basically the heading. Question 16, reporting straight away. So the heading carries on anyways. When you recognize any different, immediately report. It's anything ever in any situations anyways. A lot of any's in there. 5 stages of grief.
Page 67.
67.
One, denial of shock.
That's it. That's it. 67. It's like a colorful page, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it. Those ones. Question 18. An organization policies and procedure manual are available for the staff as they need it. Question 19. What should you do when you acknowledge the potential impact of your personal response on yourself? What should you do? Both A and B. Accept the bereavement process and care support from others. So be willing to accept that you need help. Sometimes we are not Superman. Or what's that? Superwoman, what's her name? Wonder Woman. We are not Wonder Woman. We do need help sometimes, and also discuss these issues with your supervisor. Not that they listen from experience, but anyway. Question 20, give an example of a range of emotions that you may feel. How would you feel if you're not feeling well? Yeah. 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 Sad. Yeah. Lonely.
As much as one of these work and when I think it's
Absolutely. You become attached to some of them.
but also could you not feel like relief that it's over for you?
You know, to be honest with you, I have never really cried when any of my residents ever died. Because it's a relief, it's true, it's a relief. But the problem becomes, it does have effect on you, not, yes, some people do respond by sadness and loneliness. I more become, my mind race, I can't sleep, so I struggle from not sleeping, or I struggle about thinking about them a lot. So I think about them, so my mind, yeah, we're all different, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I would actually even dream about them. You know, so even though I don't cry about them, I think of them all the time. They're like in my mind. And then when I go to sleep, I actually even dream about them. So absolutely. Yeah. We're all different. Some people might feel angry. Some people might feel frustrated. Some people might feel fear, poor concentration. You might struggle to concentrate or focus, withdraw. Yeah, everyone's different, you know. And I think the main thing is when you see there's any changes in your behavior than what you normally would behave, you need to ask for help. Yeah. Have some days off and yeah. No, that's for yourself. You can go and read through the book. Like I said, the book is very much focused actually on RNs and ENs. Really, the roles there is not entirely all we can do. So, and you guys can also, part B will come and do together here. I will have some scenarios, but you can attend part C already. By answering in your own words, describe palliative care, go and research it. There's so much on the internet. When I was looking last night, when I was preparing, I found so much. There's so many websites that's really beautiful and laid out, and I can't show you all of it because it'll just take too long. But go and research because there's some beautiful websites that with palliative care that's laid out beautifully with all this information on it as well. And you know how to support cultural, spiritual needs. Go and look a bit at other cultures and how you would support people in that. The legal and ethical considerations. That's the last question there. That's all about the advanced care directives. It will be beneficial for you to go and look on these palliative care websites. There's links to advanced care directives that you can actually download the form and have it for yourself. And then we will do that activity next Thursday. Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys today and every day. Yes, I have. I just want to pause this thing and stop recording. Sorry.